Hey everybody, and welcome to the first video of my recap of the PogChamps 3 tournament. If you don't know what PogChamps is, it's basically a tournament where chess masters take a few weeks to teach non-chess internet content creators how to play chess, and after a few weeks of training, they battle it out in a tournament. And this is PogChamps 3 because this is the third time it's been done. So I'm just going to explain the format of the tournament really quickly. These are the players on screen now. They've been divided into 4 groups, so everybody in a group will play everybody else in their own group in a match of 2 games, which goes into a third Armageddon game if the players are tied at the end of the first 2 games. Players get 3 points for an outright win, 2 points for a win on an Armageddon game, 1 point for a loss on an Armageddon game, and 0 points for an outright loss. Once everybody has played everybody else in their group, the top 2 players of each group will be seated in a single elimination bracket, and players will play the single elimination format until a winner is decided. Here is the schedule on screen now. I'm planning on covering every single game that's played, each with their own video, but that is a lot of games, so I will denote my favorite game of each day in the title of every video that I release in case you don't have time to watch all of them. So without further ado, this is Logic versus Tubbo in Group C, and let's see how they did. This is the first game they played on February 15th, 2021. So Logic was white, Tubbo was black, and Logic starts with e4. We have e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop c4, so we have the Italian game, and bishop c5, so we have the Guico pianissimo, knight c3, knight f6, d3, just a very classical setup from both players so far. Very nice so far. And here, Logic plays knight g4, or excuse me, Tubbo plays knight g4, which is not really the best move because here white can simply castle and white is fine, and black doesn't really want to trade 2 minor pieces for the rook. So knight g5, no, knight g4, not the best move, but you know, it's all right. Logic plays bishop g5, which is, once again, not the best move because now black has this double attack on f7, so black can take here with the bishop and then block this attack on the queen with f6, and black is going to be up a pawn and doing fine. So a little bit of a small mistake by Logic there, but Tubbo does not play bishop takes f2 check. Instead, he misses that Logic's knight defends his bishop and plays queen takes g5. And so this was the first huge blunder of the game, which we're going to see a lot of these types of blunders in PogChamps, which is part of what makes it so exciting. So queen takes g5, and did Logic see that he could take the free queen? Of course he did. Knight takes g5. So now Logic is up a queen. However, Tubbo is going to get his f2 threat that he wanted. So he takes with the knight, which is fine. Logic plays queen f3, and Tubbo takes the rook in the corner, so saving his rook. But with this queen f3 move, Logic was now also counterattacking black's f7 pawn, the weak point on f7. So now white can come in here and take this pawn on f7 and have a good game. But Logic takes with the bishop, which is probably not as strong as taking with the queen, but it still is good. King d8, knight d5, so just bringing in more pieces. Very good so far. Bishop e7, so just trying to defend here. I like this move by Tubbo. And knight cross e7, knight cross e7, Logic is trading, which is going to be good when you're up material. And here Logic castles, so this is good. Castling is always good. And here Tubbo plays rook f8. We have knight cross h7, so attacking the rook, rook h8, saving the rook, and queen h5, defending both minor pieces. We have knight f2, trying to escape with the knight, rook f1, trapping the knight, but here black has a nice move, which Tubbo actually found, which is knight g4. And the idea is if white takes this knight, then black takes the knight on h2, and it's a fair trade. So that happened in the game. Queen takes g4, rook takes h7. And here, Logic plays bishop g6. So he's just freeing up the bishop, and also he has this mate threat of rook f8, checkmate. So Tubbo has to do something about it. But Tubbo, instead of playing rook h8, which would have been the best move, saving his rook and also defending back rank checkmate, another try also would be to play knight takes g6, and maybe Logic wouldn't see this backwards knight move that the knight defends the check, and Tubbo would be back in the game. He would have 2 rooks and 2 minor pieces for the queen. So that could have been a try, but instead Tubbo plays d6, which hangs mate in 1, and you may think that the game is going to be over soon, but instead of playing rook f8, which would have been checkmate in 1, Logic plays rook f7, which has to be anything but a mouse slip, and this is just terrible because now Logic's queen also hangs, and suddenly Tubbo is the one that's winning. So here Logic should take this rook, and hopefully he can get a skewer on Tubbo like this. Maybe Tubbo will miss it, but instead Logic goes for the immediate rook f8, which is not as strong. So after king d7, rook takes a8, you do win the rook, but now you lose your bishop. So now Tubbo is up 2 pieces. This is looking very good for Tubbo so far. Rook takes a7, rook takes h2, a4, b6, and b4. Rook takes g2 and a5. So Logic here is trying to make a passed pawn on the queen side and basically get counterplay like that. And I actually have a very vivid memory of losing a game like this where I was up 2 pieces and I underestimated the power of passed pawns when I was a weak player, and I lost the game like that. So it's very easy to miss or to underestimate the power of passed pawns. So I'm assuming Tubbo underestimated this here, and this is what Logic is going for to try to swindle a win. So we have b takes a5 and b5, knight e7 and b6, and now this pawn can't take because it's pinned to the king. So it's starting to get a little bit tender for Tubbo. We have knight c8 and b7, and here Tubbo actually has to take this rook and play 2 minor pieces and a rook versus a queen. And that's the best option for him right now, which is going to be hard for a beginner to play that imbalance. So Logic is already back in the game here. So Tubbo goes for the trick rook g1 check, and this is hoping that Logic plays king d2, and then Tubbo can bring his rook to b1 and defend the queening square. And so Tubbo does not play king b2, which would have been the most accurate move. Instead, he plays king d2, but this plan of bringing the rook to b1 must have not been what Tubbo was thinking, because instead Tubbo plays rook g2 check, and you wouldn't want to go to e3 because that would be checkmate in 1. So Logic goes back to c1, and instead of repeating here, Tubbo makes the blunder king d8. So this is just a blunder because white doesn't actually have to take this knight. They can simply play b8, promotes to a queen, which is what Logic did. And now Logic is suddenly back in the game. He's the one in control now. So we have rook g1 check, king b2, c6, queen c7 check, king e8. And you have to be careful here because you can't actually checkmate on any of these squares. So here the fastest checkmate would be queen f7 check, and then you bring the queen to the 8th rank, and that's checkmate. But Logic does not see that. He goes for the pawn on c6, queen takes c6 check. We have king d8, queen c7 check, so maybe Logic is just trying to keep the initiative. King e8, and queen takes g7, so queen to f7 once again would have been that quick checkmate. However, this is not super accurate because now it hangs the rook. So knight takes a7, queen takes a7, and now we have a rook and a bishop versus a queen. So it's still very winning for white, but it's going to be hard. Also, now that the queen has recaptured, they're attacking this rook on g1 from across the board, which might be hard to see, so we'll see if Tubbo saves that. He plays bishop d7, so he does not save his rook, but will Logic take the rook? Logic instead took the free pawn, queen takes a5, and so the game is just going to continue. King e7, d4, e cross d4, queen d5. We have rook d1, queen to g5 check, excuse me, king e6, queen g4 check, king e7, queen takes d1, and so now that Logic has picked up this rook, it's hopefully going to be an easy win for him. We have king e6, queen takes d4 check, or not check, d5, queen takes d5 check, king e7, e5, and so now White could even sack his queen for this bishop, but Logic is just going to play it safe. We have bishop e6, queen d6 check, king f7, c4, and bishop cross c4, and now this allows queen c7 check, which forks the bishop and the king, but Logic played queen c7 check, but after king e6, he didn't take the bishop for some reason. Maybe he wanted to make two queens. Maybe he wasn't confident in his king and queen checkmating abilities. So instead we have king d6, or queen d6 check, king f5, queen f6 check, king e4, and king c3. So he's going to try to capture this bishop with his king. We have king d5, and this actually allows queen d6, and then after king e4, the king can capture, and you can promote, make another queen. So this is what happened. Queen d6 check, king e4, and queen takes c4. And as long as Tubbo doesn't get stalemated here, this looks like it's going to be a win for Logic. So the game continued. King f5, e6, king e4, e7, king f5, e8 equals queen. And now we're just going to have a nice ladder mate to finish it off. We have king g5, queen d f8. So not really the cleanest technique, but we'll get there. King g4, queen g6 check. And after this, it's just over. The queen is going to come to the h file next move, and it's going to be checkmate. King h3 and queen fh6 checkmate. So the first Group C game goes to Logic. So if Logic gets one more win, he's going to have a nice 3-point start to his to the tournament. So we'll just have to see what happens in Game 2. I'll be releasing that video shortly. If you like this video, be sure to like it and subscribe so you don't miss any more PogChamps updates. I don't think I have anything else to say, so thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.